There's a lot of different ways to cook hybrids or stripers, and it's nice, white, flaky meat. But I'll tell you what, if you want to try something a little different, you might want to try to smoke some if you've never smoked fish. We've done it on the show before, but we're going to get a little more in-depth on your brine and ingredients and so on and so forth. Now, the thing that's different about this and easier in the beginning process is when you make that cut behind the gill and go down the fish and lay that fillet out. All you do is cut that thing off. You leave the skin on. You lay it down on the skin when it's cooking. You leave the rib cage in. You can eat around those bones. There's quite a bit of meat around those bones. Now the thing when you do smoke fish is this. If you're smoking a chicken or you're smoking other kinds of meat, it takes a long time to absorb that salt in your brine. Fish soaks it up quick. Your soaking process does not take as long. Now, half hour to 45 minutes is about all you need. When I make my fish brine, you can see this bowl right here. It'll probably hold a little more than a half a gallon. There's probably a couple quarts of water in there. I'd make just enough to cover the fish that I'm going to use. And if it was just Nikki and I'd make 2 or 3 pieces because we really like it. It consists of this. I'll just cover the bottom with some coarse kosher salt. I like my kosher salt. It gives a nice taste. And I'll put maybe a half a cup in there. I mean, it seems like a lot of salt, but you want your brine to be salty, to absorb into that fish. And that's why I also put a little bit of soy sauce. I'll put maybe, I'd say 1/3 of a cup. I like a soy flavor in my fish. I'll put just a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. I like that flavor as well and use that in other brines. A little bit of garlic powder, not a lot, just enough to kind of cover the top of the water. And I'll take probably 3 heaping tablespoons of brown sugar. Now again, I wouldn't want to soak that fish any more than an hour. Jim likes to do his for about a half hour. I like a little more salt in there. Now, it's so simple, it's painful. Here's your fillet, rib cage in. He took some of the scales off. And there's your striper. In this case, a hybrid striped bass. That's a big hunk of meat right there. And that's about all I'll need. These are big pieces of fish. Now, the great thing about this as well is back in the day when people were smoking fish, that's the way they preserved it. And it does preserve your fish when you do this. But here's another thing that I like. When I was in Canada bear hunting, most of the places that we would stop, we were well up north, that was the typical snack that you would have. You could find smoked walleye, smoked trout, and it was right there in the container. You pull it out, it was refrigerated. And that's the great thing about this. I actually think it tastes better when it's got a chill on it. So I'll set that in the refrigerator after it's done and let it set, and you can eat on it for days. So that's one good way to preserve it and let it set. All right, I'm gonna let that set for about 45 minutes. Let that flavor get in there. Now, the setup for the smoker. Any smoker that you have, it's a lower temperature, and Jimmy likes to do his at about 150 degrees for about 5 hours. Now, you don't need a whole lot of smoke flavor, but a thing that you might run into at a lower temperature like that, you're gonna have trouble getting your smoke rolling in some smokers. So I cranked my temperature up just a little bit, and I cooked it for about 150 most of the time. Then the last hour, I cranked it up to about 190 degrees. Now, we're gonna see what the finished product looks like. Puff of smoke. And how about that? Looks pretty appetizing, doesn't it? We're gonna get a spatula, pull that off, and do a little taste test. I just gotta tell you that is a really good way to do your striper. On grass carp or Asian carp. Even the fat tastes good on it. I'll tell you what, this is a nice treat to have. When you have a big slice of hybrid or striper like that, it's a big bunch of meat, you can set that out and have a snack tray for your friends. And I'll tell you what, for your adventuresome friends who like to try different things, this is really tasty.